Chapter 1189 is here and it's picking up right where we left off, and Luffy is actually defeated. Imu is going crazy in this chapter. We're getting a bunch of reveals about Imu's powers, and overall this chapter and last chapter were some of my favorites in Elbaf. Well, let's get started. The chapter title is King of the World, and that's Imu. And the cover request is Nami scolding these three monkeys, who is Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, and they are the three wise monkeys. So apparently that's like see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil, I think is what the three wise monkeys represent. Last thing to cover here is that there is a break next week. I'm gonna have some videos cooking up, but without further ado, let's get started with the chapter. So we are picking up right where we left off, and Imu is impaling Luffy with the Wailing Void sword. Luffy really got packed up. No Gear 6 bullshit, no fucking Looney Tunes cop out. Luffy is really getting defeated here, and Imu is sticking Luffy to this tree. Imu is stabbing straight through Luffy into a tree, and it's official. Loki did better than Luffy did, which to me that's not surprising, but to a lot of people it seems like they had Luffy over Loki for some reason. I think I'm gonna make a video next week during the break week covering why I think Loki is stronger than Luffy, why this has always been obvious. But Usopp senses that Luffy was defeated. I don't know if this is a Observation Haki moment. It kind of seems like it once you see the whole context of this conversation. Usopp senses that Luffy's Haki's weakened or something to that effect. Usopp senses that Luffy's voice has weakened, and Nami's like, what's wrong, Usopp? And then Nami says, oh, Luffy can't be defeated. There's no way. And then Jinbei's like, well, don't forget that Imu just did beat Loki. And Loki's like, I'm not defeated. And then Jinbei says, you know, all I can say for sure is that Luffy's Haki did just weaken. And this is why I think it might be Observation Haki, considering Jinbei was able to notice it, but Nami couldn't. We know Jinbei has Haki, so maybe Usopp's tapping into his Observation Haki. He's able to sense that Luffy was defeated, whereas the non-Haki members, they don't know. But we go around to the other Straw Hats, and we can see that Shuri has finally de-thawed, but she is still unconscious. So Frankie gets right to it. He starts trying to say, like, okay, we got to de-thaw her slowly. We have to warm her up very slowly, but Brooke's trying to get information out of her right away. And then Ragnir comes over and he starts like squeaking at Shuri. He's like pissed at Shuri because Shuri was attacking him. He knows. But then a fucking boat comes out of nowhere, and it's Hajrudin, Gerd, and Chopper. They are arriving on the scene. They fly in out of nowhere and they crash into Loki, and Chopper kind of saves them with his guard point. But Gerd starts tending to Loki. So Loki is getting healed. This matches up right with what I was thinking. I was saying that Luffy's going to get defeated. He's going to need to grow, something like that, and Loki's going to have to come back in. So it looks like we're on the road to getting Loki healed up so he can fight Imu again, possibly in hybrid form. But we see why they actually came here, and it's because Jarul told Hajrudin to go back up Loki. Hajrudin was over in the West Village with all the children, but Jarul tells him to leave because really all of this stems from Imu. Jarul says even if we rescue the children, it's only going to be a temporary fix because the world government just wants to get Elbaf under their control. And that seems to all be stemming from Imu. Like, Imu has this grudge against Elbaf. We need to take down Imu, otherwise this is never going to stop. So Hajrudin asks Loki, he's like, do you know who this Imu guy is? Or do you know who this guy is? They don't know Imu's name. And then Loki says kind of. Like, Loki kind of understands Imu at this point. Loki knows that Imu is the one that killed Harold. It's just crazy to think about the fact that we sort of know Imu. Like, Imu has been a fucking black blob for like years and years and years, and now we know Imu. Speaking of Imu, Imu pulls out another sword, the Sea God sword, and it apparently feeds on life force. So just like the Wailing Void had this, like, I don't know, death aura around it, this sword has its own special ability, which is feeding on life force. So I'm assuming that each of these weapons that Imu is pulling out all have their own unique abilities, but Imu trashes Luffy's name and then trashes Ace and Sabo. And then Imu finally stabs Luffy with the new Sea God sword, stabs straight through him into the tree. Luffy has two fucking magical swords stabbed directly through his body. But then we go back to Loki, and Loki starts explaining what he knows about Imu, or that he's heard of Imu before, and that's because of Shanks. So we enter a flashback when Loki was in the throne room right after defeating Harold, and we see a conversation between him, Gaban, Shanks, and Jarul. Loki says he wants revenge on the world government. He's gonna take his Nidhogg power and he's gonna go try and fight and get back for Harold. But Shanks is like, dude, that's not a good idea. Like, what are you gonna do to the whole world government? And Loki says, you think I can just sit here and do nothing after what happened to Harold? And Shanks is like, no, I want to help too, but we need to wait. Shanks says the government just tried to take over Elbaf. You need to prepare for war in Elbaf. So I think Shanks knows about the endgame. He knows about the whole history, or at least most of it. He didn't go to Laugh Tale, but he obviously knows a lot of the details. So I think he knows that we need to wait for Luffy. We need to wait for Joy Boy. We need to wait for this final war that's been talked about by everyone. This is why I think that Shanks actually didn't go defeat Loki at sea and then go chain him up. He was telling him, okay, dude, you need to wait until Luffy arrives. That's why Loki is now free, because Luffy is here. Like, right after Luffy got Gear 5, Shanks was talking about, all right, now it's time to get the One Piece. Shanks has just been fucking biding his time until Luffy gets his Gear 5 power unlocked, and now it's finally, the fucking steps are in motion. The dominoes are finally falling for the final war, for the final, third act of the world. So the conversation continues, and Loki says, you want to have a full-on war with the world government? I don't want to drag everyone else into this. He's like, I just want to take revenge on the ones that are responsible. And then Shanks is like, who do you think that is? And then Shanks says, the one who tried to use Herald was the king of the world. And Jarul starts freaking out. He's like, there is no king of the world. That would defeat the whole purpose. It's like, no shit, Jarul. They're fucking evil. What do you think? And Loki's like, oh, if there's just one king, that's even easier. I can just take him out. That's it. But then Shanks is like, even if you make it to the Holy Land, Emu is like insanely powerful. You're not going to be able to do anything. And he says there's only one person that's ever managed to make it there, and that was Zebek. And Loki knows that too. Like, he knows that happened. And then Shanks finally says, you need to wait. You cannot rush into this fight. And it goes back to like what Zebek was saying. He needed to wait until his plan was ready to get the devil fruits, to do all that stuff. There needed to be these steps in order to win. Rushing it is only going to end up in defeat, and it's mostly because it's just not the right time. The prophesized time is Luffy. So this is what I think happened. I think Loki went out to sea even though Shanks told him not to, and then at some point, maybe after Shanks gave Luffy the fruit, that's when, Shanks understood, okay, Nika's actually here. This shit is really close to happening. I need to go stop Loki, chain him up in Elbaf, and then someday Loki is going to be freed by Luffy. But then we finally leave the flashback, and Loki says, I wasn't even able to make it to the Holy Land. He wasn't even able to make it there. I don't know why. Loki should definitely be strong enough. I mean, fuck, he can just fly to the fucking Red Line. I don't understand what he means by that. It's not like the God Knights were in the waters fighting him, so he couldn't even reach Mary Joie. He was out there just fucking around with world government ships. Maybe he didn't know what the Red Line was or where to go, but he says, okay, if the king of the world is here now, this is our perfect chance. We can take him out. And I mean, good luck. But then Hajrudin says, I'm going to help you. I'm going to be the one to take out Father's enemy. Like, Hajrudin is stepping up here. This is the moment that I want Usopp to have. Like, fucking Hajrudin right here should be Usopp. Usopp should have noticed that Luffy was defeated and been like, fuck, I'm going to go take down Emu. Yeah, I don't know what Hajrudin's going to be able to do, really. I mean, he's just weak as fuck compared to Loki and even Gear 5 Luffy, and they just both got shit on by Emu. Like, what is Hajrudin going to do? I'm guessing he's going to have to wait. I know that Gerd is here fucking tending to Loki, so Loki's going to come back into it, possibly in hybrid form. I'm assuming Hajrudin's going to come in with Loki. They're both going to fight as like a tag team duo, which will be pretty sick because most of the giants, they come in a duo. Like, you have Dory and Brogy. So I think that maybe this is the chance where we get to see Loki and Hajrudin fight together. But then we go over to the Straw Hats, who have been listening to this whole conversation, and Jinbei's like, this is an unreal fucking conversation I'm listening to. And Jinbei asks, like, okay, if the world has a king, then what is the point of the 5 elders? And I guess Jinbei could probably deduce that they're just like his advisors or something like that, because that's basically what they are, unless they have some other type of role, but they're really just stand-ins. But then Ragnir tries pressing up on Shuri again. He's like, he still hates Shuri, and Chopper's able to finally fucking translate for Ragnir, and Chopper's able to translate that Ragnir says that Shuri is evil. He's like, I froze her because she was evil. This is what I've been wanting this whole fucking, like, since we were introduced to Ragnir, I'm like, dude, Chopper needs to be next to Ragnir so they can talk, because Ragnir has insane information about the God of War, about Emu, about probably the ancient times. Like, Ragnir knows so much information. But then Brooke's like, oh, she was controlled. I don't think she's evil, whatever. Oh, she's like a daughter to me. And then we get a funny moment where Ragnir's like trying to piece together like human girl and a fucking skeleton. How are they father and daughter? I find this line a little weird considering Oda was trying to set up that Brooke and Shuri are going to get married in the future, and now Brooke is saying Shuri is like his daughter, so I hope this doesn't turn around and then they get married or something like that. Just be a little fucking weird in my opinion. But it looks like Oda's finally fucking utilizing Chopper's translation ability with animals, because Robin arrives, like, I don't know, teleports right to Chopper, and she's like, hey, come to the library. And Robin doesn't say what she wants from Chopper, but I can guess 100% what it is. It's gotta be Chopper needs to talk to Biblo. Biblo is another fucking character that has insane amounts of information. Biblo, Ragnir, and Emu are the ones in Elbaf who have the most amount of information to tell. So I think we're gonna be getting some insane lore dumps here at the end of Elbaf. Like, once we're finally done with all this fighting and shit and we can go over to Robin and Biblo, I think we're gonna get insane lore dumps from whatever was in that secret room and just whatever Biblo knows, and then possibly we get more information out of Ragnir. But we're done fucking around for the rest of the chapter. We go over to Emu, and Emu pulls out another weapon, and this time it's an axe called the Xingtian axe. But Emu says, how unfortunate, the third one is Xingtian, so I don't know, this axe must be fucking OP. We don't really get to learn what its ability is, but I'm assuming just like one more hit from this and Luffy's done, because Luffy looks like he's on fucking death's door. Like, Luffy looks absolutely packed up. His eyes are white, he's fucking covered in blood, he's somehow still in Gear 5. I don't know how he hasn't de-transformed yet, because it seems like once he's defeated, he just like de-transform, he gets knocked out of his form. But we go over to Sommers and Zoro, and we check in on their fight, and we see that Sommers is easily keeping up with Zoro, like easily. Zoro is using some of his strongest attacks that were shitting on King, and fucking Sommers is out here blocking this with ease. We can see that Sommers is using the Graham sword, and he also has what appears to be Conqueror's Haki. And it is revealed that each of the 19 kings had a special weapon that's been passed down through each of the houses in the Holy Land. And each of these special weapons is accessible through the Omen. So each of the swords that Imu used against Loki, the Nemesis attack, the Stigma attack, each of these is their own unique sword with their own unique abilities. Not specifically swords, but just like weapons in general. Like we saw the axe, we're gonna see a spear here in a second. So each of the 19 kings, they all had their own special weapons, and since you have the Omen power up, you're able to access them. So Sommers just starts using all of them. Like he's just calling out all of the weapons. So not only does the Omen power up give you increased speed, increased strength, it also seemingly gives you Haki. Like it looks like Sommers is using Conqueror's Haki, and I don't think he's had that before. And he has Conqueror's Haki on the level to fucking clash with Zoro. And on top of that, he has access to 19 different weapons that all have unique abilities and are also OP as fuck. I think the one thing that's not clear yet is if Sommers is using Graham, can Imu use Graham at the same time? So does each person who has Omen have access to all 19 at the same time? Or is it like, okay, one of these is in use, so now I can't use it? I don't really know. We're gonna have to learn more about this stuff, but this is crazy. Dude, this fucking Omen buff is insane because these guys were absolute fucking trash in my opinion, at least compared to the top tiers, at least compared to the Monster Trio. I would have rated these guys in their base forms at like maybe second commander level, but this fucking upgrade, considering that Zoro is using his strongest attacks and can do nothing, it doesn't even look like Sommers is trying very hard, they have transcended in level. So I'm gonna be making a video probably next week covering where I would rank all of the world government fighters and like their tier, because now with this chapter we have some more information on like what type of power up can we expect out of these Omen boosts. But now that we're introduced to the 19 kings and their special weapons, we see the House Sheppard weapon and the House Rimoshifu weapon. So it's revealed that Graham is actually the House Sheppard weapon, and then the weapon for the Rimoshifu family is Longinus, which is this spear. So each of the families have their own special weapon, and each of them have their own like special ability. We don't get to see like what is Graham's power or like what is Longinus's power, but like the Wailing Void sword has the Death Aura ability, and then the Sea God sword has the Life Force ability. So one question that I have is like, can anyone that uses this weapon use these abilities? So what is the special ability of Graham, and then if Zoro was to pick up Graham, can he use that power? So are all of these weapons special, or is it just the Omen power feeding through these weapons that's giving them their powers? I think that's the thing that I want to figure out, because I've theorized in the past that okay, the way to make a black blade is through Maki, it's through Omen, and when you make that pact, you get the ability that's in your sword. So basically it draws out the personality of the blade. So since we're pumping Omen into Graham, we get the personality of Graham's power. I don't really know. We're gonna have to learn more about these swords, how they work, how they came to be, but maybe they're all just like special scientific swords from the past that have these powers embedded in them. That's also a possibility. But moving on to the final bit of the chapter, Imu goes in for the final blow against Luffy with the Xingtian axe, and Imu said, "Thou should be honored to die by the arms that constructed the world." But Gaban flies in out of nowhere and steps in at the last moment and blocks the attack. And it's very fitting that Imu is using an axe here and Gaban is the one to step in. So it looks like we're going to be getting Gaban stepping in to fight Imu at least long enough for Loki to finally come back into the fight. I think that's where we're building to, considering Gaban is here to step in at all. I mean, if Imu was going to leave next chapter, then Imu wouldn't be stopped here. It seems like Gaban's going to have to fend off Imu for some time until Loki can step back in. Luffy will eventually come back into the fight. I think it's going to take a while considering he is like really damaged. Really the question at this point is how long is Gaban going to be able to last? I mean, Gaban has the, Conqueror's Haki techniques to damage immortal beings. He has really good information. He knows the full history of the world. So this can be a very interesting fight, but it's just like, dude, this is old Gaban. Like, this is old Gaban. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Loki and Gear 5 Luffy couldn't do shit against Imu. I don't know what Gaban's supposed to be able to do here. And I'm very fearful for Gaban, considering Gaban is old. So he is a disposable character at the end of the day. So Imu might be killing Gaban, and that's the question I'm going to leave with you guys. So that's all I got for today's video. If you enjoyed the chapter review, please like and subscribe. See ya.